to ring. Okay, this year I'm doing something different. This year, as we read the Quran together, we are going to be reflecting on different parts of the Quran, different themes of the Quran, and really thinking about the process of Ramadan. And so the first 10 days of Ramadan are often called the days of maghfirah, which means days of forgiveness. The first 10 days are often called the days of rahmah, the days of mercy. The second 10 days, the days of maghfirah, the days of forgiveness. And the last 10 days are called the days of ataq min an-nar, or freedom from hellfire. And so I set up a program for us this month to study every day, just for a little while, just be a half an hour talk, inshallah. Reflections on the Quran based on the idea that in the beginning of the month, in the days of mercy, we want to, in counting on Allah's mercy, we want to look deep inside and find out what is inside of us that is ugly, that is not what is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and get rid of it. In the second 10, so every day we will be talking about a different thing that the Quran tells us. It's all grounded in the Quran. We're only going to be looking at what does the Quran say about these kinds of things. And the second 10 days, we're going to be looking at how do we bring on the beauty? What's the beauty? What is beauty? Internal beauty. And how do we make our insides beautiful? Those are the days of forgiveness. And in the last 10 days, ataq min an-nar, we're going to be looking at who does Allah love? How do we become of the beloved? How do we become of those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves? So that is what the month is going to look like. I feel excited about this being the very first day. And I'm looking forward to just learning with you and walking on this path together of growth and each sort of step of making ourselves the best people that we can be. So today, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, today in this beginning, in these first 10 days, when we really want to examine what are some things within us that we want to change, I want to reflect on a really interesting word and verse in the Quran. The part that we're going to look at is in Surah number 28, verse 76, and the verse is Inna Allah la yuhibbul farihin. Verily, Allah does not love the farihin. This is a really interesting word we're going to talk about. And the verse comes, or that piece of a verse comes at the end of a description of someone you've probably heard about before, his name was Karun. And he's actually mentioned in the Bible as well. So this is a historical person who was part of the time of Moses and Pharaoh. And what we learn about him in the Quran is that here was a man. It says that he tyrannized the people of Moses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, آتَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْكُنُوزِ. We gave him of treasures, whose keys would burden a band of strong men. And so much treasure. And the people said to him, لا تفرح. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْفَرِحِينَ. Fascinating verse. If those of you who know me and have been working with me, studying with me, maybe you're at Ribaat, Rabata.org, and you are studying with me, you've often heard me talk about joy and happiness and the importance of connecting joy to our faith. I really believe that. And so when I look at this verse, it makes me stop and really want to understand. And so before I'm going to circle back and tell you the meaning of this word and talk about the different ways it's used in the Quran in a moment. But before I do, let's get the whole story. It goes on in the next verse. After we see that Qarun has been told, do not, لا تفرح, I'm not going to translate it yet. إن الله لا يحب الفرحين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love. This is like, oh my gosh, we need to know who this is and what this is. Because whatever it is, we don't want it part of us. Because this is clearly stated in the Quran that these are not of those whom Allah loves. So we want to be away from that. And it goes on to describe ways we can be and should be. وَابْتَغِ فِيمَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ وَلَا تَبْغِ الْفَسَادَ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. So we have another one. Allah doesn't love the mufsideen. Let me say it in English. But seek through that which Allah has given you the home of the hereafter. And do not forget your share of the world, and do good as Allah has done good to you, and desire not corruption in the land. Indeed, Allah does not like corrupters. Okay, pause. I want us to go deep into these verses today. 2 qualities that Allah doesn't love. I don't know if we'll get to the second one today, but we're going to get to the first one right now. The word farah actually is a word often used. It has something to do with happiness and joy. And if you look at the word itself and how it's used in common language, are you farhana? Are you farhane? I even know someone whose name is Farhana. And so it's very confusing. Why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that He doesn't love إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْفَرِحِينَ? Let's look at another verse. That's about Qarun. We're going to come back. Another verse in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَرِحِينَ, it's the same word, فَرِحِينَ بِمَا آتَاهُمَ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. بِمَا أَتَاهُمَ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. They are happy with what Allah has given them of their fadl, of His fadl, of His generosity or goodness. And another place in the Quran that speaks of farah as part of rida. Rida meaning contentedness with Allah. But I want to talk about these 2 verses. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْفَرِحِينَ and فَرِحِينَ بِمَا أَتَاهُمَ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Now, when we go back to the original verse that we're talking about, where we want to really learn and understand what's going on, because Allah is saying He doesn't love these people, this kind of person, we see that the difference between that verse and the second one is connecting what we have to understanding and remembering that it came from Allah. So in the first, Qarun, he has been given by Allah great knowledge, great treasures. And he says, he will say later that, let's see. He says later, قال إنما أوتيته على علم عندي. I was given this because of what I know. And it's because of that he became happy with himself. And this meaning here, a farah here, is not the meaning of the one who has joy and faith, but it is one who feels there's a negative connotation that means entitled and privileged. I'm thinking about this and the world today, how we keep talking about privilege and systemic racism and systemic sexism, etc. And I'm thinking about how this type of person, Allah la yuhibbul farihin, is the one who assumes that what they have is from their own work, is from their own knowledge. I did this. It's from me. And they don't attribute it to the generosity and the blessing of Allah. And so They bring this forward in arrogance. They bring this forward in a feeling of entitlement and privilege. I deserve this. So the rejoicing that they do is not a rejoicing. It's not a joy that has thankfulness in it. And this is the crux here. This is the point. It's not a rejoicing that has in it alhamdulillah. It is an exulting in look what I have. A feeling of entitlement. You're not going to give me more? A feeling of privilege. Of course I have this. I deserve this. Why don't you have it? What's wrong with you? And Allah la yuhibbul farihin. Yay. So, it's such an important point as we begin Ramadan. And many of us have entered Ramadan in happiness, which is a blessing. We want to remember always that this happiness is coming from Allah. The gift of Ramadan. Happiness is connected to what? It's connected to gratefulness, to shukr in this case. When our happiness comes from shukr, when it comes from فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله, from what Allah has given to them of His generosity, then it's something that Allah loves. So when we are grateful and thankful and not exalted and full of ourselves, then we are safe from being of those who Allah doesn't love. So I call these 10 days the days of getting rid of what is ugly. So now I want us to find this inside of ourselves, if it exists. I want us to look inside and say, how is this possibly here? So that today, on this day of mercy, this day of Ramadan, we can rid ourselves of it and be done with one quality that might be our disaster, I guess. I'm looking for a different word. So, what might be a sign that we gloat, that we have this negative gloating, this entitlement, this privilege, this sense of privilege? This would happen if we are people who are first of all, we think that everything we get we deserve. And so when we don't have what we want, we get cranky. SubhanAllah, one of the beautiful things about fasting, and one of the hard things sometimes, is that we are without food and drink, and so we recognize how much of our good character is connected to how much of the blessings that Allah is giving us, how much of our good character is really us, and how much of our good character is because we're just always blessed. Do we have good character because we're not hangry? Y'all know what hangry is, right? For those who are not first language speakers, hangry means someone who is hungry, therefore they're cranky, they're angry. We don't want this. Ramadan gives us the opportunity to check. Do I have good character? Really good character? Or is my good character connected to whether or not I have a cup of coffee or a piece of cake or a sandwich or a bowl of soup or whatever else I want to eat? We don't want to be of those who are farihin like Qarun. We want to be farihin because we know what Allah has given us. We want it to be part of our real character. Hangry, I know you're joking there, but let's talk for a minute about how it isn't normal. We live in a time where we are so used to, we feel so entitled to having our desires fulfilled that we find it very difficult to be patient. And as a result, we cause all sorts of problems. We cause all sorts of problems in our families, in our work, in ourselves. But if we can build good character, and one test of good character is this idea that when I'm happy in gratefulness. Not happy in an exalted sense, a sense of I deserve this and you don't. And a sense of this is all from me. I did this work. Now, I can imagine in our culture today, some of us responding to this and saying, well, but wait, I did go to school. I did get that degree. I did get that job. I do work very hard. Alhamdulillah. But we're all just now coming out of COVID, where it should have become very clear that our lives, the blessing of being able to go to work, the blessing of being able to manage life in the way we're used to, is dependent on Allah's blessing upon us. On Allah's blessing upon us. فَرِحِينَ بِمَا أَتَاهُمَ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. We need to be happy with what Allah has given us of His blessings. And we need to learn how to see them. I want to get to the second verse because I want to connect the two, because they're connected in the Quran, so I want to connect them. The second verse is telling us what to do instead, okay? So don't be of those who are gloating and are proud of what we've done, but be of those who are grateful and thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and find our joy in our connection to Allah. So remember what we're doing this month. We want to look inside and find out where we are. Do we have this sense of entitlement? Do we have this sense of privilege? Let's go to the next verse for a minute, because you'll see what I mean by the connection, and you'll see what I mean by this is really important in our day of this day of systemic racism. And I live in Minnesota, so this is a really important issue to me. وَابْتَغِ فِيمَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارُ الْآخِرَةِ. Seek through that which Allah has given you, the home of the hereafter. That's number one. So instead of gloating with what Allah has given us, the first thing we do is the opposite of the capitalist attitude or a materialist attitude. The first thing we do is we seek through what Allah has given us, we seek akhirah. We seek Jannah. We have to be real and know that there is Jannah. So we take what Allah has given us and we seek it. What Allah has given us in health, and we seek that. What Allah has given us in money, and we seek akhirah. How do we seek akhirah with our money? This is Ramadan. Rabata has a fundraiser. Everybody has a fundraiser now. Take what Allah has given you and give it. And seek the hereafter. Don't hold on to it and say, oh, I deserve this. Number one. This is from the next verse after that. Excuse me. And وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Do not forget your share of the world. So this is also just really beautiful. It's be wise. Allah has given you. Use it well. Be wise with this money. Be wise with the gifts Allah has given you of money, of place, of time, of people, of emotion, of support. Be wise with this money. Make sure that you can pay your electric bills. Make sure you can pay your rent. Be smart with your money. Absolutely be smart with what Allah has given you. Always connecting it to that Allah has given it to you. And that Allah can give you more. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can hold back. And so while you're being wise, also remember to use this money to seek Allah. Be generous. Be generous with the people around you. Be generous with your family. Be generous with your parents. Be generous with your parents. Be generous with your parents. Be generous with your parents, and Allah will open so many doors for you. Be generous with your parents. I can't say it enough times. Be generous with your siblings. And be generous with your Muslim community as well. Be generous with your local community. Make sure, however, I will put a caveat here. Be smart when you're giving. Give to the communities that are transparent, or have taqwa, and will listen to you. Next, in the same verse. So the first one was what? Use what Allah has given us to seek akhirah. But remember to take care of our dunya. Next. وأحسن وأحسن كما أحسن الله إليك. Whoa. Do good as Allah has done good to you. That is mind-blowing. Allah has given us the opposite in order to avoid being of the farihin, to be of these people who are like, it's mine, I got this, I worked for it, I this, I that, is to remember that Allah gave you all of this. What did Allah give you? Did Allah give you of goodness and kindness in your family? Did Allah give you money and a job? Did Allah give you intelligence? Did Allah give you time? Did Allah give you emotion? Did Allah give you health? Did Allah give you all of these things? So use every talent that Allah has given you to do good. Never thinking, I deserve this. Look at me. I got all of this because of who I am. And the last part of this is what I read to you before. وَلَا تَبْغِي الْفَسَادَ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. And don't desire corruption in the land, or fasad. Verily, God does not love corruptors, the people who do mufsideen, the people who are of the mufsideen, people who do fasad. Wow. So, it stands then to be understood that the opposite of gratefulness, the opposite of doing good, of وَأَحْسَنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ, the opposite of doing this kind of excellence, is to corrupt the land, to corrupt the earth. When we forget God, what happens? Things get messed up. And we don't want to be of either the people that Allah doesn't love, of the farihin, or of the mufsideen, but they're connected. So now, first 10 days, we're seeking Allah's mercy. What do we need to do? I want us all today, as we're reading Quran, as we are fasting and making dua, as we are considering our sadaqah, as we are considering what we're going to do next, let's first just take a moment, just right now, it only takes a moment, to be grateful to Allah for everything Allah has given us. Alhamdulillah, 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 alhamdulillah. Say it as many times as you can until you really know fully and completely that the blessings that we have are from Allah. And not because we're so clever. Not because we're so amazing. And if we want to be safe from being of those who Allah doesn't love, then we have to connect our happiness to the understanding that it is from Allah. That's joy and faith. That's the real joy. That's the joy that it bubbles inside and is deep and it comes out. The other type is a surface happiness. It's a surface happiness that doesn't go deep. That's why Allah la yuhibbul farihin, because it's a surface happiness that is kind of show-offy and there's nothing inside. And without that internal, and because of that, there's no gratefulness to Allah, there's no connection to Allah. So it's just this floating fake happiness, a happiness that only can happen by looking at what other people have as less. So we want to stand today and in deep gratefulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and follow the instructions and recognize, first of all, that Allah has given us all treasures, real treasures. And we want to be grateful to Allah for these treasures, and we want to use them for our akhirah, number one, while being wise, and we want to use them for good, as Allah has been good to us. And be careful of being people who cause trouble. Okay, where do we cause trouble? We cause trouble sometimes with talking about things, whining, complaining, talking about people. Oh, this person, she's so horrible. What'd she do that for? Why is she Can you be compassionate for people and their situation? Certainly you've had a small mind before. You can be compassionate to someone else's small mind. Learn how to be compassionate to people. Let's not go and be of those who are talking and complaining and whining and being of those who are constantly talking about others. We don't want to behave in that way. We don't want to cause... What are other ways that corruption is caused? By causing trouble. By stirring the pot of drama. We also want to be careful because corruption and problems are sometimes caused just because we are stuck on doing things our way. Let's listen. Let's become of the people who Allah loves. By first, not being of those who Allah doesn't love. That's number one. So in the mercy of Allah, these merciful days, these days of learning where our minhaj, our curriculum in this month is the Quran. We've come to the Quran today to learn that Allah la yuhibbul farihin, Allah la yuhibbul mufsidin. Allah doesn't love those who are arrogantly entitled and full of what they have, not accrediting everything to themselves. And Allah doesn't love those who cause corruption. And that corruption is caused by a person who believes that they're not connected to Allah, that none of the things that they have come from Allah, but rather they come from them. And so they stir problems and stir problems and stir problems. Open your heart on this first day of Ramadan. Get curious about what Allah has for you. Don't imitate karun, but rather imitate Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Don't imitate those who tyrannize the earth. Don't imitate those who are causing trouble. Don't imitate those who are who gloat. Don't gloat. But rather stand in humble gratefulness before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today is the first day of Ramadan. Have you given sadaqah yet? I haven't. I'm going to be honest with you. It's been a very busy day. We had our 3-hour Quran thing, but I'm going to do it as soon as we hang up, inshallah. Sadaqah, be of the first. You know, when we studied Sirah, we always study about the firsts. Being the first is unique. Maybe tomorrow I'll tell you a special story about that. But be of the first today. When we get off of here, go and give sadaqah somewhere. Give some, and if give to Rabata, we would love to have you give to Rabata. Become a monthly donor at rabata.kindful.com. Also, we are on LaunchGood with our annual sustainability fund. Maybe someone can put the link to the LaunchGood in the chat box. Support Muslim women. Support the rising tide of Muslim women leadership at Rabata. Be of those who are grateful. Be of those who help to make sure our children have women teachers and maybe can become women teachers and women community stewards in the tradition of the Prophet ﷺ and Aisha and all of the women around the Prophet. I also want to tell you that tonight at 9 o'clock on Facebook, on my Facebook page, I will do a live stream announcing our first We Are Fatima. And it's really special who we are celebrating on Facebook today. So if you can join us at 9 o'clock on Facebook tonight, I will be talking about our very first We Are Fatima winner. This is a contest we do every year. And we have a really special winner tonight that I'm really excited to share with you. And I also will be talking about Fatima radiallahu anha. So if you don't know that much about her or you'd like to learn more, that's a place to do that tonight at 9 o'clock on my Facebook page, the Tamara Al Gray Facebook page. I think it says Dr. Tamara Gray. You can find me there. Also, how many hours is that? That is in 4 hours. Great question. In 4 hours. In 4 hours. Also, every day from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m., we have Quran at Rabata, including at 1 o'clock, we have our very, very slow recitation. So the first hour is silent recitation. The second hour is a woman reciter, and this third hour, which goes longer, is very, very slow recitation for all of you who would like some help finishing your khitmah this month. I did it today. We'll have a different person every day doing that very slowly with you. You can see behind me is Arada Arts, a very beautiful poster of the life of the Prophet ﷺ. You can see them at Arada Arts on Instagram. And they sent that to me as a gift, so I just like to point that out. And what else are we doing? If you're in Minnesota, we will be having Tarawih on Tuesday and Thursday at our center in Arden Hills, 3533 Lexington Avenue North in Arden Hills. And we have tons of parking, super easy. There is a curfew tonight, but there is an exception for religious services. But do be careful, okay? And what else can I tell you about our goings on at Rabata? We have so much going on. I sometimes forget all the things we're doing. What a blessing to be part of this educational movement, this uplifting of the ummah. I hope that we all can be doing this together, linking arms together to uplift our ummah, to be not of the farihin who Allah doesn't love, but to be of those who are grateful and are of the type of joy that Allah loves. The connection to our remembrance that these gifts are from Allah. Even this gift of being here together, I'm being gifted being with you here. It's my gift to be with you. What you give me is a blessing. And I see people talking about the slow reading. It's such a blessing. It's super slow. So it's really good for those who are learning. We will be having qiyams at the end of the month, yes. The last 10 days, every single day, we will have qiyams from midnight till 2 a.m. CST.